Hey guys, welcome to You Can Do Math, and today we are going to solve a quadratic by taking the square root. I just want to thank you so much for joining me today and watching this video. Let's get started. All right guys, I want to make some observations before we get started. Take a look at the problem that I have written down first, and I want you to think about what do you notice. Well, the first thing that I notice personally is that it does not equal 0. So that's something that's been a little bit different. So far in our learning, most of our problems have equaled 0, or we've had to change it if it did not. Also, I want you to notice that only one of the terms has a variable. So that leading term, the 7x squared, that's the only term that has an x, right? The 10 doesn't have an x, so 38 does not have an x. So this is different because now only one of our terms has the variable. Our whole goal is to isolate that variable, to get the x squared by itself and then get the x by itself. So it's very important when you're looking at a problem to make an observation and see what you notice, because each problem's approach is going to be a little bit different depending on what it has. So because there's only one term with an x, with the variable, that's my whole goal. I want to get that x squared by itself. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract the 10 to the other side, right? Just like how you'd be solving a linear equation. And when you do that, you are left with the 7x squared equals, and that gives us 28. All right, so we're going to keep going. We're going to keep following the steps of algebra to get the x squared all by itself. It's being multiplied by 7, so we are going to divide each side by 7. So now we have x squared equals 4. All right, so I think a lot of you right now probably feel very confident in solving the rest of the way. We're going to take the square root of each side, and when we do that, our x is not just 2, but it is also negative 2. Right? That's where our parabola is going to cross at a positive 2 and a negative 2 of our x-axis. And it's really important to know that when you do take the square root of a number, there is 2 possible values, because 2 times 2 does give us 4, great, and negative 2 times negative 2 also gives us a positive 4. So that's why there are 2 possible answers. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at example number 2. So go ahead and write this down with me. 5x squared plus 4 equals 184. All right, observations. You notice that only one of the terms has an x, so that's where we want to focus our goal and get that x squared by itself. So let's go ahead and subtract 4 to the other side of our equation. So we have 5x squared equals 180. All right, so the next step is we are going to divide by 5. And that gives us x squared equals 36. And the last step, guys, we are going to take the square root. And when we take the square root, we have the square root of 36, which is a positive 6, and it is also a negative 6. Now, I know that I've shown this step in another video, but I think it's just worth talking about again. So I know, like, why is it when we have an x squared, why is it when we take the square root, we're just left with an x? Why does that squared go away? And so what really happens is when you are taking the square root of a term, you're taking it to a power of 1/2. So let's say we have x squared and we want to take the square root of it. Well, that means we can take it to the 1/2 power. Means the same thing. So now I have really 2 over 1 times 1/2, which is just x to the first power, which is just x. And so that's why when you take the square root of an x squared, that little 2, the exponent, goes away. All right, so here we are with example number 3. Let me write it down. And if you feel confident, like, yeah, I want to try this one on your own, go ahead. And if you still kind of want to watch one more, that's fine because we have 4 examples for today. And then you can try that one on your own. Now, don't get worried about the big number, 998. You got this. Big numbers are cool too. All right, so I want you to make a decision. You got this one? Maybe? All right, so if you feel like you got it, please pause. If not, follow along with me. I'm going to add the 2 to the other side. And when I do that, I am now left with 10x squared equals 1,000. Next step is let's divide that 10. So I'm going to divide by 10, and x squared equals, and no need to grab your calculator, right? 0, 0. Now I have 100 divided by 1, which is, just 100. Not 110, Sasha. 100. And then when we take the square root of each side, x can be a 10 and a negative 10. All right, so example number 4. The last example for this lesson, let's go ahead and write it down. Here it is. 3 subtract 3x squared, excuse me, equals a negative 144. All right, so I know it's in a little bit of a different order, but that's okay. I want you to still follow those rules of algebra, isolate x squared. And then please pause this video, try it out. All right, guys, welcome back. I have only one term with an x squared, so I want to get that by itself. This is a positive 3 up front, so I want to subtract it to the other side. And when I do that, right, I'm left with a negative 3x squared equals a negative 147. All right, so now when we divide by a negative 3, 2 negatives equal a positive. So we have x squared equals a positive 49. And we can take the square root. And x is a positive 7 and a negative 7. All right. A little tricky? Hopefully not. Hopefully you got it. And if not, that's okay too. You have lots of attempts to practice on the homework assignment for today. We didn't really go over problems where right now, where you're at and you're learning for Algebra 1, we do not have like a solution. But as you continue to grow in your math knowledge, especially when you're going to get to Algebra 2, if you have a calculator handy and you try to take the square root of a negative number, say like -4, it'll give you an error. And it's only because the only numbers that multiply to get -4 are a -2 and a +2. And those are not the same number, and so it does not work. However, it will work when you are in Algebra 2, and that will be an imaginary number, and we'll call it 2i, and that's for another lesson. But I hope you guys enjoyed today. If you have any questions, please email me. Please make sure that you're liking the videos. Please make sure that this is your own work when you are submitting it to me, please. And make sure you're showing all of your work for me as well so I can see your thinking. All right, guys, till next time. See ya.